Hello and welcome! My name is Heather. I'm a registered professional counselor, and we're gonna watch Love is Blind Season 2.
Like, is this gonna ever work out? And I think back to that night in Mexico, and that was really scary. The way that it made me feel was like, I can't live like this the rest of my life.
So hearing you say that scares me.
Why?
Oh.
What?
So now they're on a date and they're trying to resolve the past fights that they've had, and it seems like Nick is doing his best to try to explain to Danielle how he was feeling from their very first experience in Mexico, and he's just trying to share exactly what was going on for him because we haven't really heard from his side. Instead of Danielle validating how he's feeling, she starts to internalize and focus on herself, and now she's saying that she's scared, which is fine. It's normal if she is feeling scared. And again, this is a really common thing that we'll see in conversations, is that one person will be talking or sharing their experience and the other person just immediately makes it about themselves. So I'm not trying to blame or shame Danielle. This is a very common thing that a lot of people do in their conversations with friends or with their partners. Also, just a reminder that everything I'm mentioning in these videos are complete speculation. I am not in a counseling session with these characters. I don't know them personally. It's not ethical to diagnose them from afar. The point of these videos is to use examples from the show to be able to talk about relationship concepts, psychology theories, and also communication styles and how we can improve them in our own lives.
That's a good time that you've said something about, like, oh, what, we might not work out.
That's not true.
You said that, like, you said that twice, and I'm just like, okay.
So even though Nick never said, I was thinking of leaving you, or I'm going to leave you, he said, I was thinking of if this is what my future is going to look like, or if this is what the rest of our lives are going to look like. She internalized that from her past cognitive filters, her past experiences, her past attachment injuries, and she's internalized it, and it's triggered her anxious attachment style into thinking that, oh, he's going to leave me. And that's essentially all that she hears, even though he didn't necessarily say those words. It's normal for someone who has anxious attachment style to kind of go to this mindset or these types of negative thoughts, right? Because again, they haven't worked on it. It's a big trigger for them. And so I understand why Danielle just immediately went to, oh, you said you're going to leave me and you said that multiple times. So are you really going to leave me? Do you really love me? And that's essentially just where she's going. Their biggest fear is that their partner is going to leave them, or that the partner doesn't love them, or something like that. And so when she hears him say that, oh, I wonder if this is what the rest of my life is going to look like. And so that's typically what happens, is that it kind of gets distorted through all these different filters, and she interprets it a different way. And I'm guessing this is what tends to happen in their past conversations as well, that leads to these misunderstandings, these disagreements, and these arguments. Again, it can be worked on, and it's just something that they need to either go to couples therapy for, or individualized counseling for Danielle, just to work on all that, so they don't keep having these misunderstandings. Now, if they were in a couple session with me, what I would do is I would just slow things down, and before addressing Danielle's fears, because she said she was scared, I would refocus the attention back on Nick and have Danielle really listen and hear what Nick is feeling. And also this can help her understand that, okay, Nick never said that he was leaving me in Mexico, or that he thought about leaving me, but it can help clarify exactly what he's feeling, what he said, and to make sure that she heard it in an accurate way. In this case, it can also help Nick feel heard and validated in terms of his feelings, because he's allowed to have those feelings. He's allowed to freak out and have doubts, because I'm sure she's also had doubts, because this is a really intense process. So people can have these feelings of doubts, and it's a lot of pressure to ask your partner to always feel 100% committed 100% all the time. It's not realistic. It's not always really fair. And so just being able to acknowledge, like, oh, okay, in those times when we were in Mexico, he had feelings of doubts. I can understand why he would have those feelings of doubts. You can validate how they are feeling so they feel heard and understood, and also you can contribute how that makes you feel, but it usually helps for you to validate the other person's feelings, and then that way they have the opportunity to also listen and be able to validate your feelings. Before I forget, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to help support this channel.
That's the context. That's the context.
Yeah,
like
that's
the word.
really scary to me. I'm
Are we really going to argue again?
No, we're not going to. I'm just saying that's really scary to me. I have to think about it.
So it's not a great sign that Nick is rolling his eyes. We've seen this a few times before in other conversations that they've had. Again, according to John Gottman's research and his 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, this is a sign of contempt. So remember that the 4 communication styles is criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And their research has shown that contempt is actually the #1 predictor in divorce. Now, it's not to say because Nick has rolled his eyes a few times when they had disagreements that they're going to get divorced or that their relationship is going to work out. It means that they just need to go to couples therapy to find better ways of how to disagree or how to have more functional fights. So if they never went to couples counseling or learned new coping skills and Nick continually rolled his eyes in future fights over a long period of time, then yeah, that could be a predictor of divorce. But it's not to say that because he's rolled his eyes a few times that we've seen that their relationship isn't going to work out. The reason why contempt is the most destructive of the 4 horsemen is because it conveys the message to your partner that I don't respect you or I'm more important than you. And so that is definitely really hurtful to the relationship and in the long run of the quality of relationship. Other forms of contempt to avoid in conversations with your partner would include sarcasm, mocking them, hostile humor, name calling, mimicking them. So all these things are very destructive in our relationship and they should definitely be avoided. Again, I'm not here to try to predict whether or not these couples will stay together or not. That's not the goal of my videos. That's just not what we do as therapists.
Like the stress of the situation kind of made all of my flaws kind of bubble up to the surface.
I may not get how you feel in every moment. I'm not probably ever going to. But it doesn't mean that I don't love you.
So Nick is doing a good job just trying to reassure Danielle. It could be also seen as a repair attempt as well. And I think it's great that he reminded her that he might not always understand how she's feeling, but he still loves her. And I think that's important for a lot of us to remind ourselves is that even if our partner doesn't always understand us 100%, or if they're having difficulties really seeing where we're coming from, it doesn't mean that they love us less.
You wanted to leave me because of the thing that I hated most about myself. Like that's why I'm so emotional right now. Like, no, I know. It's just like hearing that I'm sorry, that's what triggered me. It's just like I know, like I would too.
Danielle has recognized that she's triggered, so that's a good sign that she's able to recognize that. But what do you do with that information? It's one thing to recognize that you're being triggered. It's a completely different thing to work on what those triggers are and work through it. So in future events, you don't get as easily triggered and get into these arguments or get flooded with emotion and fear that your partner is going to leave you. Therapy, again, is a great way to be able to work on these little issues that we may have so they don't seep into our relationship. Again, this is why I specialize in breakups, because there's not a whole lot of therapists or counselors out there devoted to just focusing on grieving a breakup or working through the emotional baggage from our breakup so it doesn't get carried forward into our future relationships. And out there's a lot of breakup coaches, but they may not have the necessary education or training or skills to be able to really help someone who might have these types of triggers or these types of attachment injuries, and normalizing and healing our breakups in a productive and functional way with quality professional help. So Danielle is probably experiencing a lot of feelings of vulnerability or fears of being rejected or fears of Nick leaving her. And the closer they get to these wedding dates, the more the fear will come out because they're anticipating that level of rejection and that level of pain if it doesn't work out. So they'd rather either try to self-sabotage the relationship earlier to avoid those intense feelings of hurt and pain later on. And it's normal for her to have these questions of, does he really love me? Is he gonna leave me? Does he really care about me? Because we all have these thoughts. And what typically happens is that if you have experiences in the past where those answers to those questions have been quite negative or quite toxic, then it becomes easier to convince yourself that the outcome is also going to be negative because you don't have any positive experience from the past to really offset or think of a different possibility aside from it going horribly wrong.
The one thing that I need you to remember is that I love you no matter what.
I know.
And I'm gonna love you at your worst. I promise you that. And you have to trust that.
So Nick is doing a really good job just trying to reassure Danielle of how he's feeling and that he'll still love her even if he sees her flaws. I think that's a really good reminder, and hopefully that can help her, again, just have more internalized positive reassurance from a partner. And that way she doesn't automatically go to these more negative thoughts or these negative experiences from her past relationship. It's just going to take time for them to kind of sort through that, and also take time for her to really trust him and his motivations of staying in the relationship and his love for her, again, just because she doesn't have a whole lot of positive examples of that. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more analysis videos like this. Feel free to check out my other therapist reviews videos, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, be kind and love yourself.